Hello and welcome to this lesson about multiplying and dividing fractions. The learning target is to be able to multiply and divide fractions and mixed numbers together. So first, let's start off with some core ideas. First one is something that goes to both multiplying and dividing fractions, and that is no mixed numbers. So if you have any mixed numbers, you need to convert them to improper fractions. Now, when we're talking about multiplying fractions, what I'm going to do is just kind of create a little line here so we can talk about other core ideas. The main idea with multiplying is first, simplify if you can. So simplify those fractions if at all possible. Second, it's all about just multiplying horizontally. All right, so you'll work left to right, and you'll stay in the numerators or in the denominators. Now, as for dividing fractions, the first thing we have to do is sort of an off-brand version of Kentucky Fried Chicken. Instead of KFC, it's KCF. Keep, change, flip. That's what that stands for. Keep, change, flip. I'll show you what that looks like later. And then after that, you go back to multiplying fractions. And so those are our core ideas. Again, no mixed numbers in either of these. And then for multiplying, simplify first, multiply left to right. For dividing, keep, change, flip, and then just treat it like multiplying fractions. So our first example, let's take a look at two multiplication problems. First one, let's do 8/15 times 9/10. Now the first step is to simplify if possible, and in this one we can simplify like crazy. So when we're simplifying, we could either look vertically or we can look diagonally. You cannot look horizontally, so that is not an option. Even if they're going to look really tempting to simplify, you can't do that. So what I'm seeing is diagonally 9 and 15 share a common multiple, or common factor, and that factor is 3. And so if I were to do 9 divided by 3, I get 3. If I do 15 divided by 3, I get 5. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking out the 3, I'm reducing it, getting rid of it. And I can do the same thing with 8 and 10. So now I can take out a 2 to get 4 and 5. And so the problem I'm now looking at is 4/5 times 3/5. And then to multiply fractions, you just multiply the numerators together and the denominators together. So 4 times 3 is 12, and then 5 times 5 is 25. And we check to see if we can reduce it, but we can't because the only factors of 25 are 1, 5, and 25, and then none of those match up with factors of 12. So there's our final answer. Now, let's take a look at one where we have mixed numbers. So let's say we have something like 2 and 2/5 times 3, big 3, and 3/4. Now what we need to do here is convert these to improper fractions. And the way we convert to improper fractions is we make a big C. We multiply here, add there. The big C, we multiply, and we add. So 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12 over 5, times 4 times 3 is 12, plus 3 is 15, 15 over 4. Now we just multiply. So again, we look horizontally, we look vertically, up or down, or we're going to look diagonally to reduce. And again, I can see some reduction that can happen diagonally. So 15 and 5, I can take a 5 out of both of those to get 1 and 3. And then I can take out a 4 to get 3 and 1. And now I just multiply across. So 3 times 3 is 9. 1 times 1 is 1. And if you ever have a fraction that's over 1, or 1 is the denominator, you don't need to write it, and you can just say 9. Now, let's look at some examples of division. So in this first one, we'll go 7/12 divided by 3/4. Now, the first step is to do keep, change, flip, KCF. And so what that stands for is that we're going to keep the first fraction as is. 7/12 We then change the sign. So this is where the C happens. And I'm going to change it from division to multiplication. And then I'm going to flip the fraction, which means multiplying by its reciprocal, which is the fancy way of saying that, to get 4/3. Now we have a multiplication problem, and we just reduce if at all possible. So here I can take out a 4 to get 1 and 3, multiply those two together to get, or multiply my numerators and denominators together to get 7/9. Now the thing you're going to have to resist the urge to do is don't simplify before you do keep, change, flip. Don't simplify yet. So you're going to be tempted, you're going to see the 3, you're going to see the 12, and you're like, I can reduce. Don't do that, because when you flip it, you're going to be able to reduce with something else, because 12 and 3 are now horizontal, and you cannot reduce horizontally. You can only reduce diagonally or vertically. All right, and then our final example, let's put it in a mixed number. So we have 3.5 divided by 6/7. So again, the first thing we have to do is convert this to an improper fraction. So do our little circle thing. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7/2. And then what we're going to do is divide by 6/7. And so now we have to do the keep, change, flip. So we will keep our fraction as 7/2 times changing our sign, and then flipping the fraction to get 7/6. Now again, this is why we have to be careful. Not everything will simplify. Right now, or before we did that, you look here, oh man, that is very tempting to simplify. But notice we have a division sign in there. We haven't switched to multiplication. You cannot simplify until you're at this stage where you have a multiplication sign. Now, nothing simplifies. All we can do is multiply our numerators together to get 49, and then our denominators to get 12. And that is the final answer. So, quick recap. No mixed numbers when multiplying or dividing fraction. You have to make everything put everything in a rational form. So it has to be an improper fraction or what we'd consider a normal fraction. For multiplying, simplify, and you can simplify either diagonally or vertically, but never horizontally, because you're going to multiply horizontally. For dividing, you have to, again, make sure there's no mixed numbers, but then you do keep, change, flip. Keep the first fraction, change the sign to multiplication, and get the reciprocal of the second fraction. And then you just multiply. Good luck with your homework, and let me know if you have any questions.